Hello, my name is Maria Meehan. I will be presenting to you my critical analysis essay, Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare and The Snows of Kilimanjaro by Ernest Hemingway. Literature adds to reality. It does not simply describe it. It enriches the necessary competencies that daily life requires and provides. And in this respect, it irrigates the deserts that our lives have already become. C.W. Lewis. This quote, to me, is the importance of literature in our lives. It reminds us that literature tells us of stories, scriptures, epics, ancient and modern times. Two well-known authors, William Shakespeare and Ernest Hemingway, I have chosen to compare and contrast their work and lives to the quote of C.W. Lewis. Ernest Hemingway. I have a portrait of him. He was born in 1899, died in 1961. He was known as a Nobel Prize winner and one of the great American 20th century novelists. He was born to an upper middle class doctor's family in Oak Park III. He was married 4 times, was the father of sons, a big game hunter and teller of splendid, manly tales. He worked as a reporter in Kansas City, served in World War I with the Red Cross, and was wounded when he was 18 years old. He was a reporter in the Spanish Civil War and World War II. Ernest Hemingway, Goodnight My Kitty, was the last spoken to by his wife before he killed himself. The outlines of Hemingway's life have been told since his death in 1961 by numerous biographers in ever-darkening tones. Hemingway based many of his stories on his experiences during World War I, the Spanish Civil War, and World War II. Ernest Hemingway, The Snows of Kilimanjaro, was written in 1938, was about a writer named Harry and his wife, Helen, who are stranded in Africa while on a safari. The story itself opens with a paragraph about the highest mountain in Africa, Mount Kilimanjaro, whose western summit is called the House of God. As Harry and Helen wait for a rescue plane, Harry spends his time drinking and insulting Helen. Harry reviews his life, realizing he wasted his talent from a marriage to a wealthy woman he doesn't love. The Snows of Kilimanjaro. Harry feels like he sold out when he thinks about his former days as a poor writer in Paris. Devoted to his craft and his present, comparatively hedonistic lifestyle devoid of meaning. In Hemingway's Snows of Kilimanjaro, modernism was reflected as the first-person narration and the stream of consciousness type sentences. I strongly believe that C.W. Lewis' quote relates to Ernest Hemingway's The Snows of Kilimanjaro in literature adds to reality through their lives and experiences. Both authors being in the same war and both being wounded, C.W. Lewis being in the British Army and shipped to France to fight in the First World War, and Ernest Hemingway volunteered to serve in Italy as an ambulance driver with the American Red Cross during that same war. Here I have the author William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare, although no birth record exists, it is believed that he was born on April 23, 1564, in Stratford-upon-Avon, located 100 miles northwest of London. He was England's natural poet and is considered the greatest dramatist of all times. One of his most notable works included Hamlet and Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet were written during the Elizabethan era, from 1558 to 1603 and was considered to be the golden age in English history. William Shakespeare was also famous for his contributions to theatre of the time by writing plays that were very different from England's past styles. The Elizabethan era was expressed in theatre through historical topics, comedies, and tragedies. William Shakespeare died on April 23, 1616. The exact cause of his death is said to be unknown. Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare was written by an English playwright, poet, and actor who is William Shakespeare in 1595. Romeo and Juliet was a fact-based story about the life of two real lovers who both died for each other and lived in Verona, Italy in 1303. Alas, that love, whose views are muffled still, should without eyes see pathways to his will, by Shakespeare. This couplet combines two ideas that love is blind and love will find a way, by Shakespeare. Romeo and Juliet is a Shakespeare tragedy where Romeo and Juliet, the two main characters, are supposed to be sworn enemies but fall in love the first time they see each other. However, their families feud and hate towards each other. It requires them to be enemies. Both Romeo and Juliet try to believe that morning hasn't come, since the new day brings nothing but grief. More light and more light, more dark and dark our woes, by Shakespeare. By killing themselves, the lovers accept their trapped fate and at the same time they escape from the world that has kept them apart. C.W. Lewis's quote somewhat relates to the Romeo and Juliet short story. Both add to the literature, adds to reality. It does not simply describe it by love, fate, hate, and tragedy. The reality that two lovers took their own lives so their families can end their hateful feud. Both Ernest Hemingway and William Shakespeare, by analyzing their literary accomplishments, relate to C.W. Lewis' quote. Literature adds to reality, it does not simply describe it. It enriches the necessary competencies that daily life requires and provides, and in this respect it irrigates the deserts that our lives have already become, by Lewis. To simply put it, literature does more than storytelling books, adding meaning to life, and can encourage new ideas, and could potentially change the course of history as seen between the short stories of Romeo and Juliet and Snows of Kilimanjaro. Thank you.